In linguistics, a collective noun is a collection of things taken as a whole. For example, in the phrase "a pride of lions," pride is a collective noun. Most collective nouns in everyday speech, such as group, are mundane and are not specific to a kind of object. For example, the terms group of people, group of dogs, and group of ideas are all correct uses. Others, especially words belonging to the large subset of collective nouns known as terms of Venery, are specific to one kind of constituent object. For example, pride as a term of Venery refers to lions, but not to dogs or cows. Collective nouns should not be confused with mass nouns, or with the collective grammatical number. Derivational collectives. Derivation accounts for many collective words. Because derivation is a slower and less productive word formation process than the more overtly syntactical morphological methods, there are fewer collectives formed this way. As with all derived words, derivational collectives often differ semantically from the original words, acquiring new connotations and even new denotations. The English endings age and aid often signify a collective. Sometimes the relationship is easily recognizable: baggage, drainage, blockade. However, even though the etymology is plain to see, the derived words take on quite a special meaning. German uses the prefix ge to create collectives. The root word often undergoes umlaut and suffixation as well as receiving the ge prefix. Nearly all nouns created in this way are of neuter gender. Examples include das Gebiet, group of mountains, mountain range, from der Berg, mountain, das Jeeper currency ck, luggage, baggage from der Pack, pack, bundle, pile, das Gefler 1/4 gel, poultry, fowl from late mhg Gevler 1/4 gel, under the influence of der Fla 1/4 gel, wing, from mhg Jiva 1/4 gel, from ohg Jifugili equals collective formation, from Vogel, bird, das Gefter, plumage from die Feder, feather. In Swedish, one example is the different words for mosquitoes in the collective form and in the individual form: mygga, plural, mygga, mig, metonymic merging of grammatical number. Two good examples of collective nouns are team and government, which are both words referring to groups of people. Both team and government are count nouns. However, confusion often stems from the fact that plural verb forms are often used in British English with the singular forms of these count nouns. Conversely, in the English language as a whole, singular verb forms can often be used with nouns ending in s that were once considered plural. This apparent number mismatch is actually a quite natural and logical feature of human language, and its mechanism is a subtle metonymic shift in the thoughts underlying the words. In British English, it is generally accepted that collective nouns can take either singular or plural verb forms depending on the context and the metonymic shift that it implies. For example, the team is in the dressing room refers to the team as an ensemble, while the team are fighting among themselves refers to the team as individuals. This is also British English practice with names of countries and cities in sports contexts. For example, Germany have won the competition. Madrid have lost 3 consecutive matches, etc. In American English, collective nouns almost invariably take singular verb forms. In cases where a metonymic shift would be otherwise revealed nearby, the whole sentence may be recast to avoid the metonymy. See comparison of American and British English, formal and notional agreement. A good example of such a metonymic shift in the singular to plural direction is the following sentence: the team have finished the project. In that sentence, the underlying thought is of the individual members of the team working together to finish the project. Their accomplishment is collective, and the emphasis is not on their individual identities, yet they are at the same time still discrete individuals. The word choice team have manages to convey both their collective and discrete identities simultaneously. A good example of such a metonymic shift in the plural to singular direction is the following sentence: mathematics is my favorite academic subject. The word mathematics may have originally been plural in concept, referring to mathematic endeavors, but metonymic shift to that is, the shift in concept from the endeavors to the whole set of endeavors produced the usage of mathematics as a singular entity taking singular verb forms. Nominally singular pronouns can be collective nouns taking plural verbs, according to the same rules that apply to other collective nouns. For example, it is correct British English or American English usage to say, "None are so fallible as those who are sure they're right." In this case, the plural verb is used because the context for none suggests more than one thing or person. Terms of Venery. The tradition of using terms of Venery, or nouns of assembly collective nouns that are specific to certain kinds of animals stems from an English hunting tradition of the late Middle Ages. The fashion of a consciously developed hunting language came to England from France. It is marked by an extensive proliferation of specialist vocabulary, applying different names to the same feature in different animals. These elements can be shown to have already been part of French and English hunting terminology by the beginning of the 14th century. In the course of the 14th century, it became a courtly fashion to extend the vocabulary, and by the 15th century, this tendency had reached exaggerated proportions. The Venery of Twitty distinguished 3 types of droppings of animals, and 3 different terms for herds of animals. Gaston Phoebus had 5 terms for droppings of animals, which were extended to 7 in the Master of the Game. The focus on collective terms for groups of animals emerges in the later 15th century. Thus, a list of collective nouns in Edgerton, Mississippi, 1995, dated to c. 1452 under the heading of Terms of Venery and c. extends to 70 items, and the list in the Book of St. Albans runs to 165 items, many of which, even though introduced by the companions of beasties and fowls, do not relate to Venery but to human groups and professions and are clearly humorous. The Book of St. Albans became very popular during the 16th century and was reprinted frequently. Gervase Markham edited and commented on the list in his The Gentleman's Academic in 1595. The book's popularity had the effect of perpetuating many of these terms as part of the standard English lexicon, even though they have long ceased to have any practical application. Even in their original context of medieval Venery, the terms were of the nature of kennings, intended as a mark of erudition of the gentleman able to use them correctly rather than for practical communication. The popularity of these terms in the early modern and modern period has resulted in the addition of numerous light-hearted, humorous or facetious collective nouns. See also, linguistics concepts, grammatical number, mass noun, measure words, plural, plurale tantum, synosis, lists, list of collective nouns for all subjects, list of animal names, including names for groups, English language, Wiktionary appendix of collective nouns, interdisciplinary, social unit, references. Further reading, Hodgkin, John. Proper Terms, an attempt at a rational explanation of the meanings of the collection of phrases in the Book of St. Albans, 1486, entitled The Companions of Beasties and Fowls, and Similar Lists, Transactions of the Philological Society 1907-1910 Part 3, pages 1-187, Kegan, Paul, Trenching Tra 1 Quarter BNE & Co., Limited, London, 1909. Schulman, Alan. A Mess of Iguanas. A Whoop of Gorillas, An Amazement of Animal Facts. Penguin. ISBN 978-1-84614-255-0. Lipton, James. An Exaltation of Larks, or the Veneral Game. Penguin. In 1993 it was republished in Penguin with the Ultimate Edition as part of the title with the ISBN 0-14-017096-0 hardcover paperback, Patrick George. A Filth of Starlings. Patrick George. ISBN 978-0-9562558-1-5. Patrick George. A Drove of Bullocks. Patrick George. ISBN 978-0-9562558-0-8.